Right now, at this very moment, microscopic cancers are forming inside your body. This is not a theory, it is a biological certainty. If you are over the age of 50, you likely have thousands of abnormal cell clusters right now in your breast tissue, your prostate, your lungs, and your colon. In fact, autopsies of people who died from accidents show that 40% of women in their 40s have microscopic breast cancer, and 70% of people in their 70s have microscopic thyroid cancer. Yet most of these people never knew it. They never developed a tumor. They never needed chemotherapy. Why? Because their body had a functioning defense system that kept those cancers frozen in a state of permanent dormancy. But for many of you watching this, that defense system is failing. You are being told that aging means an inevitable decline into disease, and that your genetics are a loaded gun you can do nothing about. That is a lie. The research coming out of institutions like Johns Hopkins University and the Harvard Medical School reveals that while you cannot change the mutations you were born with, you can absolutely control whether those mutations ever turn into a deadly vascularized tumor. Most people think they are doing the right thing. They buy a head of broccoli at the grocery store, they steam it until it's soft, and they eat a few florets with dinner. They think they've checked the box for cancer prevention. They haven't. In fact, if you are preparing your broccoli the way 90% of Americans do, you are likely receiving almost zero of the medicinal compounds that actually fight cancer. You are eating fiber and water while the medicine is being destroyed in the steamer or left behind in the trash. Today, I am going to show you something that is 100 times more powerful than the broccoli you've been eating. I am going to show you a single microscopic food that has the documented ability to upregulate over 200 separate cancer-fighting genes. This isn't superfood marketing. This is molecular biology. We are talking about the NRF2 pathway, the master switch of your body's antioxidant and detoxification system. When this switch is flipped, your cells start producing their own internal antioxidants, which are far more potent than any vitamin C or E pill you could ever swallow. To understand why this matters, you first have to understand the 16,000x rule. A microscopic tumor, a cluster of abnormal cells, is harmless as long as it is smaller than 2 millimeters, the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen. At that size, the cancer has no blood supply. It can sit there for 30 years and never hurt you. But the moment that tumor hijacks your body's angiogenesis system, the system that grows new blood vessels, everything changes. Once blood vessels penetrate that tumor and begin feeding it oxygen and nutrients, it can grow 16,000 times larger in just 14 days. This is the difference between a harmless speck and a grape-sized mass that is ready to metastasize. The compound we are focusing on today is called sulforaphane. It is a sulfur-containing molecule found in cruciferous vegetables, and it is perhaps the most potent natural anti-angiogenic and DNA repair agent ever studied. In laboratory assays, when you expose a tumor to sulforaphane, it loses its ability to recruit blood vessels. It starves, it stays small. But more importantly, sulforaphane goes into your healthy cells and fixes the potholes in your DNA. Every single day, your DNA takes hits from ultraviolet radiation, environmental pollutants, and processed foods. Your cells have a repair crew, but as you age, that crew runs out of asphalt. Sulforaphane is the raw material that puts that crew back to work. In a landmark study from the University of Oslo, participants who ate foods rich in these compounds showed 60% less DNA damage in just 3 weeks. Not only was new damage prevented, but existing broken DNA strands were physically repaired. Now, here is the 100x secret that your doctor isn't telling you. While mature broccoli contains sulforaphane, broccoli sprouts, the 3-day-old seedlings grown from the seeds, contain up to 100 times the concentration of the precursor compound, glucoraphanin. This means a tiny 2-ounce serving of sprouts provides the same cancer-fighting power as several pounds of mature broccoli. Think about the efficiency of that. Most seniors struggle to consume enough volume of vegetables to reach therapeutic levels of these compounds. Your digestion slows down, or you simply don't have the appetite for 3 bowls of steamed greens every day. By switching to broccoli sprouts, you are consuming a pharmaceutical-grade dose of medicine in a single handful. In studies conducted at Johns Hopkins, researchers gave high-risk individuals a small amount of broccoli sprout extract daily. After 90 days, They didn't just see subjective improvement, they measured cancer biomarkers in the participants' blood and urine. Those markers dropped by 60%. The researchers confirmed that the sprouts had upregulated over 200 genes involved in detoxification and tumor suppression. They had literally turned on the body's internal pharmacy. But there is a catch. If you eat these sprouts incorrectly, you get nothing. The sulforaphane is not actually in the plant. It is created through a chemical reaction that happens when the plant is damaged. The plant contains two separate components, glucoraphanin and an enzyme called myrosinase. They are kept in separate compartments within the plant cells. Only when the cell wall is crushed or chewed do these two meet to create sulforaphane. This is the plant's defense mechanism, its own chemical weapon against insects. When an insect bites the sprout, the chemical reaction occurs, creating a bitter, toxic environment for the pest. We are essentially hijacking this chemical weapon for our own health. However, if you cook these sprouts, you destroy the myrosinase enzyme. If the enzyme is dead, the reaction never happens. You could eat a mountain of cooked sprouts, and your body would never produce the sulforaphane needed to flip the NRF2 switch. This is why the standard American way of preparing cruciferous vegetables, boiling them or steaming them until they are mush, is a metabolic disaster. You are killing the enzyme that creates the medicine. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the precise crush and wait protocol. I will show you how to prepare these sprouts and other cruciferous vegetables to ensure you are getting 100% of the bioavailability. We will also discuss the specific institutional research that proves how this compound targets stage 4 cancer cells by killing the roots, the cancer stem cells, that traditional chemotherapy often misses. If you are serious about your health in your 60s and 70s, you cannot rely on vibes or general advice to eat more greens. You need specific high-density interventions that address the primary threats to your longevity: DNA damage, chronic inflammation, and tumor angiogenesis. To understand why this 100x intervention is so critical for anyone over 60, we have to look at the biggest failure of modern oncology, the recurrence of cancer. You have likely heard stories of a patient who underwent aggressive chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Their scans came back clear. They were told they were in remission. But 2 years later, the cancer returned, more aggressive and more resistant to treatment than before. This happens because of a specific population of cells called cancer stem cells. Think of a dandelion in your yard. If you take a lawnmower and cut off the yellow flower and the green leaves, the dandelion is gone from your sight. The lawn looks clear. But because you didn't pull the root, the dandelion will inevitably grow back. In cancer biology, traditional chemotherapy and radiation are the lawnmower. They are very effective at killing the bulk of the tumor, the rapidly dividing daughter cells, but they often fail to kill the roots, the cancer stem cells. These stem cells are a tiny subpopulation within a tumor that can regenerate the entire malignancy. They are metabolically distinct. They divide slowly, which makes them invisible to traditional chemotherapy, which targets fast-growing cells. They are the seeds that stay dormant in your bone marrow or your liver, waiting for the right inflammatory signal to wake up and start a new colony. This is where the research into sulforaphane, specifically the concentrated dose found in broccoli sprouts, becomes revolutionary. A study conducted at the University of Michigan and published in Clinical Cancer Research demonstrated that sulforaphane has the unique ability to target and eliminate cancer stem cells in breast cancer models. When they exposed cancer stem cells to this compound, the cells lost their ability to form new colonies. The roots were physically destroyed. The researchers found that sulforaphane works by downregulating the WNT beta-catenin signaling pathway. This is the navigation system that tells a stem cell to divide and renew itself. By jamming this signal, sulforaphane forces the cancer stem cell into a state of senescence, or triggers apoptosis, programmed cell death. It effectively pulls the root that chemotherapy leaves behind. But as I mentioned in part 1, the vast majority of you are getting zero benefit from your cruciferous vegetables because of an enzyme called myrosinase. This is the most important bottleneck in senior health nutrition. Myrosinase is the key that unlocks the sulforaphane from its precursor, glucoraphanin. When you boil or steam your broccoli until it is soft, you are performing a process called denaturing. You are unraveling the proteins of the myrosinase enzyme, rendering it useless. You eat the broccoli, the glucoraphanin enters your gut, but there is no key to unlock it. It simply passes through your system. However, there is a biohack documented in the peer-reviewed literature that can increase the sulforaphane yield of your vegetables by up to 400%, even if they have been cooked. This involves adding an external source of myrosinase. A study from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign found that when participants ate cooked broccoli alongside a food containing active myrosinase, their blood levels of sulforaphane were nearly identical to those who ate raw broccoli. The missing key was replaced. The most potent source for this is ground mustard seed. Mustard seeds come from a cruciferous plant, and they are packed with heat-stable myrosinase. By simply sprinkling a half teaspoon of mustard seed powder onto your cooked broccoli or your broccoli sprouts, you are ensuring that the chemical reaction occurs within your digestive tract. Other sources include raw daikon radish, horseradish, or wasabi. This is the level of precision required in your 60s and 70s. You do not have the metabolic buffer of a 20-year-old. You cannot afford to waste meals on inactive nutrients. You need every bite to contribute to the Goldilocks zone of your health defense systems. Let's talk about the NRF2 pathway in more detail, because this is the specific mechanism that upregulates those 200 cancer-fighting genes. NRF2 is a protein that sits inside your cells, bound to another protein called KEAP1. Under normal conditions, NRF2 is locked in the cytoplasm, doing nothing. But when sulforaphane enters the cell, it causes a conformational change that releases NRF2. The NRF2 then migrates into the nucleus of your cell, where it binds to the antioxidant response element, ARE, on your DNA. This is the master switch. Once flipped, it triggers the production of phase 2 detoxification enzymes, including glutathione S-transferase and quinone reductase. These enzymes are your body's internal pharmacy. They don't just neutralize a single free radical like a vitamin C molecule does. Instead, one enzyme can neutralize thousands of carcinogens every second. They stay active in your system for up to 72 hours. This is why a serving of broccoli sprouts every 2 or 3 days creates a protective shield that lasts far longer than the meal itself. But there is a secondary benefit to sulforaphane that is critical for the senior population: the reduction of inflammaging. As we age, our bodies develop a state of chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation. This is often driven by senescent cells, retired cells that refuse to die and instead secrete a cocktail of inflammatory toxins called the SASP, senescence-associated secretory phenotype. These toxins poison the stem cell niche, the neighborhood where your healthy repair cells live. A healthy stem cell placed in an inflamed neighborhood will stop working. It will go into a deep quiescence, a sleep so deep that it can no longer repair your muscle fibers, your gut lining, or your arterial walls. Sulforaphane is a potent inhibitor of NF-kappa B, the primary on switch for inflammation. By shutting down this pathway, sulforaphane reduces the production of IL-6 and TNF-alpha, the poison that keeps your stem cells asleep. When the inflammatory neighborhood is cleaned up, your construction crew can wake back up and start repairing the damage that we have traditionally associated with normal aging. In fact, research from the University of Auckland showed that athletes who consumed high-density anthocyanins and sulforaphane-rich foods had 88% more circulating T cells in their bloodstream. T cells are the elite soldiers of your immune system. They are the ones that identify the microscopic cancers we discussed in Part 1 and eliminate them before they can recruit blood vessels. By eating 100x concentrated broccoli sprouts, you are performing a system reboot. You are clearing the DNA damage, pulling the roots of potential tumors, and lowering the systemic inflammation that is aging your tissues prematurely. But we must address the angiogenesis component again, because this is the mechanism that turns stage 4 cancer into stage 0. In laboratory window chamber assays, researchers can actually watch blood vessels grow in real time. When they introduce sulforaphane, the vessels stop in their tracks. They fail to sprout toward the tumor. This is the same mechanism used by pharmaceutical drugs like bevacizumab, Avastin, which cost thousands of dollars per infusion. While I am not saying broccoli sprouts are a replacement for medical treatment, the science shows that the mechanism of action is identical. You are using molecular signals from a plant to tell your body no to the cancer's request for food. In part 3, I'm going to give you the exact sprout and crush protocol. I will show you how to grow these at home for pennies, the exact temperature that maximizes sulforaphane without killing the enzyme, and how to combine them with other outlier foods like pomegranate and C8-MCT oil to create a metabolic environment that is fundamentally hostile to cancer cell metabolism. We will also discuss the Warburg effect, the metabolic addiction that cancer cells have to glucose, and how you can exploit that vulnerability using the 100x potency of sprouts. Now that we have established the molecular superiority of broccoli sprouts and the mechanism by which they target the roots of cancer, we must discuss the sprout and crush protocol. This is where most people fail. They buy the seeds, they see the sprouts, and they sprinkle them on a salad like a garnish. But if you treat your medicine like a garnish, you will receive garnish-level results. To reach the therapeutic threshold, where you are upregulating 200 genes, you must follow a precise pharmaceutical preparation method. The first step is understanding the heat hack. In part 2, I told you that boiling destroys the myrosinase enzyme. However, there is a specific temperature range between 60 and 70 degrees Celsius, 140 to 158 degrees Fahrenheit, that actually increases the sulforaphane yield by up to 350%. Here is the science. Broccoli sprouts contain a secondary protein called the epitheo-specifier protein, or ESP. This protein is a metabolic thief. When you crush a raw sprout, the ESP protein shunts the reaction away from sulforaphane and toward a biologically inactive compound called sulforaphane nitrile. By heating your sprouts in water at exactly 65 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes, you physically deactivate the ESP protein while leaving the myrosinase enzyme intact. This ensures that when you finally crush the sprout, 100% of the glucoraphanin is converted into cancer-fighting sulforaphane. If you do not have a thermometer, you can achieve this by bringing water to a boil, letting it sit for 5 minutes, and then flash steaming your sprouts for no more than 60 seconds. This is the difference between a healthy snack and a targeted oncological intervention. The second step is the mechanical crush. Remember, the reaction that creates sulforaphane requires the breaking of cell walls. If you swallow the sprouts whole, your stomach acid will denature the enzymes before the reaction can complete. You must either chew them thoroughly, far more than you would a normal vegetable, or you must blend them into a smoothie. But here is the outlier secret for those of you who cannot stand the bitter taste of sprouts, the mustard seed synergy. As I mentioned in part 2, ground mustard seed is a concentrated source of heat-stable myrosinase. If you find the preparation of sprouts too tedious, you can eat mature broccoli, even frozen broccoli, and as long as you sprinkle half a teaspoon of mustard seed powder on top, you will reactivate the frozen vegetable. The enzyme in the mustard seed will find the glucoraphanin in the broccoli and create the medicine inside your small intestine. This is the ultimate standard American biohack for seniors who want the protection of sulforaphane without the labor of sprouting. However, for those who want the full 100x power, you must grow them at home. Grocery store sprouts are often sitting in plastic for 5 to 7 days. They are losing their vitality and are at risk for bacterial contamination. You can buy organic broccoli sprouting seeds for pennies. Use a mason jar with a mesh lid. Soak the seeds overnight, then rinse and drain them twice a day. By day 3 or 4, you will have a forest of 3-day-old seedlings. This is the peak of their sulforaphane content. At day 5, they begin to mature and the concentration drops. You are looking for that 72 to 96-hour window. Now let us discuss the metabolic pincer. To truly starve a tumor, you must address the Warburg effect. In 1931, the biochemist Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize for discovering that cancer cells have a fundamental metabolic addiction. They consume glucose at a rate 10 to 50 times higher than normal cells. They are obligate glucose fermenters. They cannot efficiently burn fat or ketones because their mitochondria are dysfunctional. When you combine the 100x power of sulforaphane with a state of mild nutritional ketosis, you are creating a metabolic environment that is fundamentally hostile to cancer cell survival. This is why I recommend the C8-MCT coffee protocol in the morning. By consuming a tablespoon of pure C8-MCT oil, your liver immediately produces beta-hydroxybutyrate, BHB. BHB is a signaling molecule that does 2 things. First, it provides a clean, alternative fuel for your healthy cells, allowing them to thrive even when blood sugar is low. Second, it reduces your circulating insulin and glucose levels. You are essentially removing the fuel from the cancer's gas tank. When you then introduce sulforaphane at lunch, the cancer cell is already stressed and starved. The sulforaphane arrives and cuts off the last remaining blood vessels through anti-angiogenesis and activates the NRF2 switch to repair any DNA damage the cancer was trying to exploit. You are attacking the malignancy from the outside, starvation, and the inside, DNA repair. But we can go even deeper. The third part of this outlier protocol involves the microbiome. In part 1, I mentioned the Akkermansia bacteria, the guardian of your immune system. If your gut is depleted of Akkermansia, your T cells will stay exhausted. They will see the cancer and ignore it. To ensure your sulforaphane is being utilized at its maximum capacity, you should consume 4 to 8 ounces of pure pomegranate juice or half a fresh pomegranate daily. Pomegranates contain L-gitannins, which are the primary food source for Akkermansia. Within 3 weeks of this protocol, your Akkermansia populations can increase 6-fold. Now your immune system is primed. When the sulforaphane identifies a microscopic cancer and prevents it from growing blood vessels, your newly activated T cells can arrive and finish the job. This is a comprehensive 3-pillar system for senior health, the sulforaphane shield. 2 ounces of broccoli sprouts, crushed and/or mustard seeded, to flip the NRF2 switch and pull the roots of cancer stem cells. The metabolic pincer, C8-MCT oil to lower glucose availability and starve the Warburg effect. The immune primer, pomegranate and fiber, to feed the Akkermansia bacteria that train your T cells to stay on high alert. If you are in your 60s or 70s, you are in the red zone for oncological risk. The wait-and-see approach of standard medicine is a gamble where the stakes are your life. You have been told that a diagnosis is bad luck. It isn't. It is the result of a biological environment that allowed a microscopic speck to recruit a blood supply and explode in size. You have the power to change that environment today. You don't need a $30,000 clinic in Mexico. You need a $5 bag of seeds, a mason jar, and a half teaspoon of mustard seed. You need to stop boiling the life out of your vegetables and start treating your kitchen like a laboratory. The research is unequivocal. We know cardiovascular disease can be reversed. We know metabolic syndrome can be reversed. And the emerging science of metabolic oncology shows us that by targeting the Warburg effect and tumor angiogenesis through food, we can create a body where cancer simply cannot thrive. I see many of you are watching these videos but haven't subscribed. You are missing the daily protocols that are literally changing the baseline health of thousands of seniors. It takes 2 seconds, it is free, and it ensures that this evidence-based health information reaches the people who need it most. Commit to the 1-day trial. Grow your first batch of sprouts. Drink your tea without dairy. Add the C8 oil to your coffee. Your mitochondria, your stem cells, and your DNA repair crews are waiting for the signal. Stop sending them the signal of decay through processed foods and start sending them the signal of regeneration. Your health is not predetermined. It is influenced by what you choose to eat and how you live every single day. You have more control than you have ever been led to believe. I will see you in the next one. Robert Lee out.